So, are we ready? I'm live now. All right. Hello, everyone. I'm pleased to welcome you to the Mediterranean Digital and Innovation Summit on behalf of ASCAMI, a much-needed platform for collaboration in a coordinated way among all governments, private sector, regional, European, and international companies, entrepreneurs, startups, innovators, and investors. I'm Ginwa Jalloul, Chairwoman and CEO of Torch Academy, a boot camp and a pre-accelerator with the mission of upskilling youth of Lebanon and equipping them with the right digital talent to enable them to digitally transform and to smoothly move into the digital economy by transforming their ideas into innovative startups or helping to digitally develop existing ones. We did it. We did it. We invested in most important resource, youth, trained and prepared them with interesting and innovative MVPs and startups in the financial services, education, health sector, sports, agri-tech, and many other sectors. But like many, those startups have been slowed down by impact of COVID-19 and also for Lebanon by the political instability. And now they are looking for the right funding opportunities to scale, hopefully across the Mediterranean region and if possible globally. I believe that many of us in the Mediterranean region have been planning to be ready to overcome challenges imposed by digital transformation and to take advantage of its promising benefits in enriching the economy and creating wealth. We knew that digital transformation was coming, but not at such a fast pace. I believe none of us have foreseen the advent of COVID-19 and its tsunamical impact on the acceleration of digital transformation. The digital economy is happening now. We are witnessing and living its impacts. The economy as we knew it is changing forever. Classical economies are challenged, business models are changing, digital disruptive businesses are taking over almost all sectors of the economy, from commerce to media through to financial services. Many classical jobs are lost or are on their way to disappear. Youth are studying for jobs that do not exist, where the private sector is battling to survive the change. Governments are continuously working to create jobs and leverage the economy. The digital economy is happening now. There is no going back. The Mediterranean region is like any other region, is challenged with the need to create hundreds of millions of jobs in the next 3 decades. Some countries now are facing more than 30% of unemployment. Is there a way out? A way to surf the so happening digital tsunami? And the answer is yes. Indeed, but actions should be taken right now. The Mediterranean is rich with its youth. We have a young, digitally savvy population with some of the world's highest level of smartphone penetration. It's only through investments in these youth to upskill them, trigger their creativity, and support them to walk the walk to digital innovation, entrepreneurship, startup initiation, and scaling these startups through financial investment that we have the opportunity to reap the benefits of digital economy. We witness development of digital ecosystems and initiatives in many cities and countries across the Mediterranean, and here in Barcelona and Catalonia. The startup landscape is falling into place, but we still need to scale these startups. Gaps remain for investors in properly identifying potential in new business models and scaling those startups. A digital agenda and actions are urgently needed and called upon for the Mediterranean region. We have the opportunity to transform the Mediterranean region, our region, into a hub of digital innovation and investment, and to lead globally, whether in AI, robotics, or other digital disciplines. We have the youth resource and startup landscape. We need to close investors' gap, encouraging investors to invest in youth and startups. We need to encourage public-private sector partnerships and collaborations to coordinate efforts of all stakeholders across the region and in cooperation with European international organizations and bodies. This is where the summit comes in, where our speakers will share with us their success stories, expertise, ideas, innovations, investment opportunities, hopefully, and actions towards digital economy. But before proceeding, To introduce my first speaker, I'd like to express my appreciation for the good efforts of ASCAMI that, in partnership with other relevant associations in the digital and innovation sector, for setting up this forum, looking forward for it to be enriching and beneficial for all stakeholders. Our first speaker was supposed to be Faris Alami, but he seems to have issues with his connection. So allow me to introduce Roger Esper, Director Technology. What? Excuse me? This is what I mentioned. He's not connected. So I'm introducing, as the first speaker of this summit, Roger Font Esprio, Director Technology Consultancy Division at Eureka Foundation, and engineer, a creative and optimistic engineer from educational background and technology, holds an executive MBA and an electrical engineering technical innovation management. As an innovation consultant, Engineer Esprio helps companies to implement their own methodologies in order to stimulate innovation by developing its own strategy and at the same time setting short-term reachable goals. Currently, Technology Consultant Director at Eureka Foundation that has advised on an innovation process over 100 companies from a wide range of sectors. Also led international R&D projects in the field of innovation process, digital transformation, international project manager, and idea management. Roger, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Jinhao, for your introduction. En primer lugar, me gustaría, evidentemente, agradecer la invitación por parte de la organización. Es un placer estar hoy aquí. Como ha dicho Jinhua en su introducción, nosotros desde Eurocat, concretamente desde el Departamento de Consultoría Tecnológica, damos soporte a las empresas en organizar sus procesos de innovación y sus procesos de transformación digital. Y hoy entraremos en analizar un poco el contexto en el cual estamos hoy en día y miraremos de dar una serie de recomendaciones para afrontar la transformación y la gestión del cambio tecnológico de las organizaciones en unos tiempos que son realmente complejos y complicados. ¿Puede pasar al siguiente slide, por favor? Nos gusta comparar la innovación con un proceso continuo. De hecho, es un proceso sistemático y es muy importante que las organizaciones establezcan sistemas para realmente impulsar la innovación desde un punto de vista interno. A mí me gusta comparar la innovación con una carrera de larga distancia por varios motivos. En primer lugar, es que si yo les digo que mañana tienen que correr una maratón, la maratón de Barcelona, por ejemplo, seguramente me dirán que no puede ser, que necesitan un poco de tiempo para entrenar y prepararse. Seguramente me pedirán pues soporte externo o de algún asesor que nos ayude a fijar objetivos específicos, que nos ayude a entrenar y a sacar tiempo de nuestro día a día, que es muy complejo, para poder dedicar esfuerzos en determinados proyectos. Y luego viene el día de la carrera. Si hemos entrenado bien, hemos hecho los deberes, hemos creado un sistema de innovación, nos hemos asesorado de externos que nos han guiado durante el proceso, hemos establecido un plan estratégico de innovación, seguramente correremos la carrera y lo haremos bien del kilómetro 0 al 30, ¿no? Pero los que sois corredores sabréis que del 30 al 42 nunca sabes qué te va a pasar, ¿no? A lo mejor no hemos comido bien, no hemos entrenado bien, hemos pasado mala noche, hay un poco de incertidumbre, ¿no? En los procesos de innovación y de transformación pasa exactamente lo mismo, ¿no? Sí, hemos preparado un sistema y lo hemos trabajado bien, perfecto, pero siempre hay un riesgo. Y la innovación implica realmente asumir ciertos riesgos en el proceso, ¿no? Nosotros desde Eurecat nos gusta hablar de riesgo controlado y nos gusta hablar de carteras de proyectos, es decir, tenemos que definir una estrategia para impulsar proyectos que nos den resultados de una forma rápida y aquellos proyectos con mayor riesgo tecnológico, saber encontrar los partners y los socios adecuados que nos ayuden realmente a implementar estos proyectos y también buscar palancas, tanto financieras como a nivel de gestión, etcétera, que nos ayuden a realizar los proyectos. Siguiente presentación. A nivel de contexto, siguiente slide, por favor. A nivel de contexto, ¿por qué estamos hablando hoy en día? Podemos hablar de revolución digital. En primer lugar, porque estamos generando más datos que nunca en la historia. Los mayores representantes y CEOs de las compañías del mundo están preocupados para saber cómo la transformación digital afectará su modelo de negocio. Por culpa a la COVID, al virus, estamos acelerando el proceso de innovación. Se habla que hasta 5 veces de lo que hubiésemos hecho en condiciones normales. A pesar de todos los problemas que tenemos y de la crisis económica que estamos afrontando, hay una escasez realmente importante de talento en determinados ámbitos de interés, como puede ser inteligencia de datos, digitalización, etcétera, ¿no? Y las habilidades laborales están cambiando constantemente. De hecho, se definen cada 3 o 4 años, ¿no? Entonces, en medio de todo este entorno, tenemos que definir una serie de ejes estratégicos claros para impulsar dentro de la compañía, ¿no? Y que realmente nos permitan, pues, acelerar y controlar nuestros procesos de innovación. Si puede pasar al siguiente, por favor. A nivel de retos, ¿cuáles son los retos o principales retos que estamos asumiendo como organizaciones? En primer lugar, tenemos que ser capaces de crear un proceso de innovación continua y disruptiva dentro de nuestra organización. Tenemos que ser capaces de monitorizar el entorno y tenemos que ser capaces de explorar de una manera sistemática nuevos modelos de negocio. También tenemos que tener la habilidad de poner al cliente en el centro de nuestra organización, entender a este cliente, saber quién tiene los datos de nuestro cliente y en base a eso poder definir modelos de negocio que sean interesantes para nuestro ecosistema y también para nuestros clientes. Y por último, es muy importante entender que formamos parte de un ecosistema. De hecho, una organización o una empresa es un nodo de este ecosistema y tenemos que definir una estrategia para establecer relaciones con los distintos elementos de este ecosistema. Pueden ser desde proveedores a clientes, pero también instituciones de investigación, universidades, etcétera, que en el fondo nos permiten acelerar nuestro proceso de innovación. ¿Puede pasar a la siguiente? A nivel de contexto, estamos en un contexto realmente complejo. Cada vez hay más agentes que trabajan en nuestro ecosistema. El cambio tecnológico es exponencial. Cada vez salen tecnologías de una forma más rápida, con un ciclo de vida más corto y realmente la adquisición de estas tecnologías es cada vez más complejo. Cuando tenemos o creamos un producto y lo lanzamos al mercado, el ciclo de vida de este producto es más corto, lo que implica que la inversión que podemos realizar es menor. También los mercados están extremadamente saturados, con lo cual la única propuesta viable para crear nuevos servicios y productos es que sean realmente diferenciales y que se adapten específicamente a nuestro segmento, adaptación desde colores a forma del producto, incorporación de nuevas tecnologías, entender de una forma más ágil y mejor a nuestro consumidor y adaptar el producto específicamente a sus necesidades. Y en medio de todo esto, pues tenemos la pandemia. La pandemia que ha multiplicado por 5 la velocidad del cambio, que nos ha exigido digitalizarnos, crear nuevos modelos de negocio y adaptarnos al cambio de la mejor forma posible. Si puede pasar a la siguiente. Solo para poner un ejemplo, cada vez estamos en un mundo, como he dicho antes, en el que hay más información y más datos, pero esto no implica que tomemos mejor las decisiones, ¿eh? Si os fijáis, había un informe de la Organización Mundial de la Salud que alertaba en octubre de 2019 una posible pandemia producida por un virus, incluso establecía una serie de recomendaciones para los gobiernos para hacer frente a la pandemia. Es una clara demostración de que tenemos mucha información, que realmente somos muy buenos generando información, pero nos cuesta realmente tomar las decisiones adecuadas en los momentos oportunos. ¿Puede pasar a la siguiente? ¿Cómo nos está afectando la pandemia? Realmente hay 3 factores que nos están promoviendo y cambiando nuestros procesos de innovación, servicios y productos. Evidentemente, el distanciamiento social. Están saliendo distintas tecnologías que nos permiten tener este distanciamiento y esa tecnología contactless, plataformas online de compra por internet, etcétera. Estamos viendo un cambio en los patrones de movilidad realmente importantes, como puede ser el establecimiento de una forma permanente del teletrabajo, también forma distinta de distribuir los productos, una explosión del e-commerce, etcétera. Y también hay otros dos factores que son relevantes. En primer lugar, tecnologías para la higiene. Hay muchas empresas que están innovando en este sector, tecnologías de desinfección, sellos de calidad, auditoría, etcétera. Y luego también a nivel de control de aforo hay varias tecnologías también que están permitiendo pues controlar en tiempo real aforos de determinados espacios, generar nuevas actividades y también impulsar pues nuevos diseños de espacio y conceptualización de oficinas. Para ponerles solo un ejemplo, en la siguiente slide, desde Eurecat, por ejemplo, participamos en una hackathon europea que de hecho ganamos en colaboración con otras universidades y centros de investigación, en el cual desarrollamos una solución para detectar pandemias en las aguas residuales mediante técnicas de inteligencia artificial, ¿no? Lo que es un ejemplo claro de innovación, en este caso, para hacer frente a la pandemia. Si puede pasar al siguiente bloque. Y por último, me gustaría hacer una serie de recomendaciones, es decir, en base a este entorno, cómo podemos mejorar y cómo podemos realmente innovar de una forma más rápida. En primer lugar, es muy importante tener clara una visión de la compañía, hacia dónde vamos y una visión que sea digital, que incluya el futuro digital. Luego, tenemos que tener en cuenta que el cliente es un elemento importantísimo y tenemos que tener toda la información de nuestro cliente. Y si no la tenemos, nos tenemos que preocupar por obtener esta información. El talento es uno de los activos más importantes de nuestra compañía, por tanto nos tenemos que preocupar de desarrollar nuestro talento y también mejorar la captación de talento y luego impulsarlo dentro de la compañía. Para hacer todo esto, y luego mi compañero Marco Orellana explicará un ejemplo clarísimo, tenemos que crear ecosistemas de innovación y tenemos que participar y formar parte de estos ecosistemas para establecer relaciones con otras instituciones y poder acelerar los ciclos tecnológicos. Tenemos que tener en cuenta que la tecnología no es un fin en sí mismo, sino que es solo una herramienta que nos permite realmente mejorar procesos, mejorar productos y generar nuevos modelos de negocio. Y como compañías y organizaciones tenemos que ser capaces de acelerar los procesos de innovación. Ya no sirve tener un proyecto de investigación de 2-3 años, resultados a 5, sino que estamos hablando de meses. En meses tenemos que ser capaces de lanzar nuevos productos para ir a nuevos mercados. Y en la siguiente slide, puede pasar, por favor, comentaré dos temas que también son relevantes. Es crucial ser capaces de medir el éxito de nuestra estrategia empresarial, por tanto, tenemos que definir una serie de KPIs y de indicadores que nos permiten evaluar el impacto de los proyectos que lanzamos a mercado. También debemos ser capaces de evaluar sistemáticamente nuevos modelos de negocio. En la siguiente slide les pongo un ejemplo de cómo desarrollar rápidamente una tecnología. En colaboración con la empresa, con el Hospital de San Pau, la empresa QR Technologies, Nissan y Eurecat, desarrollamos un respirador artificial para ayudar a países con problemas de abastecimiento de respiradores. Lo hicimos trabajando con las metodologías que he ido comentando, de una forma muy ágil, en base a un reto concreto y, evidentemente, trabajando con nuestro ecosistema para poder hacer frente a este reto tan interesante. Al final, el respirador obtuvo la certificación por la Agencia Española del Medicamento y nos ha permitido pues alcanzar el objetivo que teníamos en mente. Y por último, para acabar, me gustaría comentar una herramienta, si puede pasar la presentación, para hacer frente a todo lo que hemos comentado. Lo ideal sería ser capaces como organización de tener un plan que podemos llamar o plan estratégico o hoja de ruta realmente para poder alcanzar todos estos objetivos. ¿Qué deben contener este plan? En primer lugar, tener clara cuál es la estrategia de la compañía, pero lo más importante es saber cómo podemos liderar dentro de la misma empresa la transformación digital. Eso implica desde crear estructuras de trabajo internas, grupos de trabajo que permitan realmente implementar los proyectos que van saliendo, implementar metodologías ágiles para realmente acelerar los procesos de innovación y, por último, evaluar de una forma clara y sistemática los resultados de este plan de innovación. Y hasta aquí mi ponencia. Muchas gracias y luego en los turnos de preguntas estaré a vuestra disposición para responder cualquier duda. Muchas gracias.
Thank you, Roger. Our next speaker is Marco Orellana, Manager CEDAI, Center of Innovation for Data Tech and Artificial Intelligence, industrial engineer, graduated with maximum distinction from the University of Chile, Master in Project Management from the University of Barcelona, and world finalist of the Intel Global Challenge with the business plan for a new technology-based company, which was carried out in the University of Berkeley, California, United States. Founding partner of a software quality analysis company, established the company in Silicon Valley, United States. Later, he collaborated in a Chilean company that encourages the use of technology in electronic transactions. Later, he moved to Barcelona, where he participated in the implementation of projects in front of the European Commission, managing international technology projects. Later on, he collaborated as a technological consultant at Eureka. His role was to advise companies and public organizations in technological innovation. Currently, he is the manager of CEDAI, Center for Innovation in Data Tech and AI, managing a multidisciplinary team whose mission is to promote the adoption of AI by the Catalan ecosystem. Marco, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much for your presentation. I will speak in Spanish to encourage the company in our region. Muchas gracias por la invitación. Si pueden poner la presentación. Creo que están en otra presentación. Bueno, básicamente, mientras colocamos la presentación, hoy les quiero comentar CEDAI. CEDAI es una iniciativa público-privada que nace dentro de la estrategia catalana de inteligencia artificial. Es uno de los pilares dentro de esta estrategia, Catalunya Punt.ai. Es sobre todo en el pilar de adopción de la inteligencia artificial por el ecosistema catalán. La estrategia catalana tiene otros dos pilares, uno de ética y otro de investigación. Nosotros estamos dentro de la adopción por parte de las empresas de las tecnologías derivadas de los datos y la inteligencia artificial. Como podéis ver en la presentación, tenemos nueve entidades que conforman CEDAI, 2 que son del ámbito público, la Generalitat de Catalunya y el Ayuntamiento de Barcelona, 4 centros tecnológicos, el Barcelona Supercomputing Center, el Centre de Visió por Computador, I2CAT y EURECAT. EURECAT es quien coordina y quien lidera esta iniciativa. Y tenemos también la participación de 3 empresas privadas, Everest, Microsoft y SDG Group, todas estas 9 entidades como socios fundadores. Por favor, la siguiente slide. Como les comentaba, nuestra misión es básicamente demostrar las ventajas y acelerar la adopción por parte de las empresas de las tecnologías de datos e inteligencia artificial con la visión de transformar la región en un ecosistema internacional de referencia en estas tecnologías. Tenemos unos valores de proximidad, de impacto y sobre todo de excelencia y neutralidad, y nos definimos bastante cerca de lo que sería lo que define la Comisión Europea como Digital Innovation Hub. Funcionamos en red, dando servicios a nuestra comunidad. Siguiente slide. Los pilares en los cuales basamos todo nuestro trabajo, digamos que son estos 4 que podéis ver a la parte izquierda de la presentación: Innovation and Tech Transfer, innovación y transferencia, donde desarrollamos básicamente proyectos, ya lo veremos. Generamos un ecosistema conectado y fuerte. Hacemos actividades también de difusión y formación de cara a la comunidad, y un pilar que es el que establece la gobernanza de todas estas actividades, que es el de estrategia de internacionalización. A la derecha podéis ver nuestra estructura de cómo estamos conformados. Tenemos estos core partners o socios fundadores, que son los 9 que ya les he comentado. Luego tenemos una estructura de miembros que estamos activamente buscando nuevos miembros que quieran participar en alguna de las actividades que llevamos a cabo como CEDAI. Y luego la comunidad, que aquí sería básicamente todas las empresas, entidades, organizaciones que se pueden ver afectadas por tecnologías de datos o inteligencia artificial, sobre todo con base en la región de Cataluña. Siguiente slide. Bueno, acá hablamos un poco del paquete de trabajo número 4, que es de estrategia de internacionalización. Aquí tenemos como actividad desarrollar un advisory board internacional que nos permita revisar la estrategia de CEDAI, también algunos de los informes que que vamos generando para la comunidad, como serán los white papers, que los comentaré más adelante. También como actividad principal estamos siempre en contacto con todas las iniciativas internacionales de networking, de programas y proyectos europeos. Sobre todo aquí hablamos de Digital Innovation Hub y algún otro que también funcione en términos de datos o inteligencia artificial. Tenemos actividades de vigilancia tecnológica, continuamente daremos un boletín mensual de las noticias principales dentro del sector de inteligencia artificial, y también cada 6 meses entregaremos una mayor visión el resumen de todas estas tendencias que hemos recogido en nuestros informes mensuales, y finalmente un comité de ética que revisará todos los proyectos que estamos llevando a cabo en CIDAI. Siguiente slide. El grupo de trabajo de ecosistema conectado, básicamente tenemos CIDAI al centro, que son los socios y miembros, pero identificamos que también hay muchas otras entidades externas que también podrían dar servicios a través de nuestra red. Y estamos en fase de construcción de identificar quiénes son estos potenciales miembros que puedan dar servicios específicos en estas tecnologías a través de nuestros contactos. Funcionamos como un primer punto de contacto, quiere decir una ventanilla única en el cual cuando una empresa o alguna organización tenga alguna necesidad en clave, datos e inteligencia artificial, sepa que a través de nosotros puede llegar a un potencial proveedor, a un potencial colaborador, etc. Haremos un mapeo también de todos los miembros socios del ecosistema catalán en clave de inteligencia artificial y tecnología de los datos para identificar y mostrar a la comunidad cuáles son las potenciales capacidades que tiene Cataluña en estas tecnologías. Y además generamos diferentes workshops de innovación, los cuales, por ejemplo, ayer tuvimos el segundo workshop de innovación, casos de uso de analítica avanzada, con el objetivo de generar roadmap de trabajo en clave datos para las empresas u organizaciones de Cataluña. Siguiente slide. Otro de los paquetes de trabajo que tenemos definido es las acciones más de difusión y de formación, sobre todo destacar la conferencia anual. Este año hemos tenido en octubre el AI and Big Data Congress, que se celebró virtualmente debido al contexto actual. El próximo año también tendremos un evento que generalmente es de 2 días, en el cual tenemos un día muy aplicado a negocio, de cómo estas tecnologías influyen en el negocio, y otro día que es más técnico de las aplicaciones, las infraestructuras, las arquitecturas que tienen estas soluciones promocionadas por las mismas empresas o organizaciones que han llevado a cabo estos proyectos. Tendremos un espacio también para hacer demo space, mostrar nuestras innovaciones, también generar reuniones, etc. Y haremos un mapeo de todas las posibilidades formativas regladas y no regladas de inteligencia artificial y tecnología de los datos en Cataluña. Y también, como una actividad de difusión, generamos las masterclasses, que estas, a diferencia de los talleres de innovación, que son más acotados, en los cuales estamos buscando una participación de 20, 30 empresas, porque el objetivo también es poder generar proyectos a través de estos workshops, tendremos unas masterclasses. Las masterclasses serán unidireccionales para mostrar casos de uso, casos de éxito, desarrollos tecnológicos, etc. Siguiente slide. Y finalmente, el grupo de trabajo donde tenemos más puesto todos nuestros recursos, innovación y transferencia. Aquí desarrollaremos white papers sectoriales. Este año hemos priorizado 3 sectores: salud, industrias culturales y basadas en la experiencia y movilidad. Desarrollaremos también proyectos de alto impacto para cada uno de estos sectores que hemos priorizado para el 2020-2021. Luego priorizaremos otros sectores que están dentro de la estrategia catalana. Desarrollamos también pruebas de concepto. Mapearemos todos los iLabs disponibles en la región y generaremos nuestro propio repositorio de datos para promocionar mejores prácticas y también que las empresas puedan encontrar un data space importante para generar proyectos. Siguiente slide. Estos son los 8 ámbitos de actuación de la estrategia catalana. Nosotros, como les comentaba, estamos enfocados en 3, pero eso quiere decir que este primer año sí que estaremos impulsando proyectos en estos 3, luego seleccionaremos algunos otros. El siguiente slide. Disculpa, siguiente slide. Comentaros, ya básicamente para ir cerrando, en qué estamos actualmente. Ya hemos generado 3 grandes proyectos que comenzarán a partir de enero del 2021. En el ámbito de la salud, estamos trabajando con análisis por inteligencia artificial de imagen para analizar potenciales enfermedades de riñón. En el ámbito de la movilidad estamos desarrollando un proyecto de alto impacto para identificar potenciales accidentes en cruces de calle en una ciudad, tanto accidentes como near misses, o sea, accidentes que no se llegaron a producir, pero que potencialmente pudieron haber sido, como por ejemplo saltarse una luz en roja. Y finalmente, en industrias culturales y basadas en la experiencia, estamos desarrollando un proyecto de generar herramientas que permitan hacer recomendaciones al sector turismo, también pensando sobre todo en el contexto actual de pandemia. Siguiente slide. Este es un proyecto también transversal que estamos coordinando desde SIDAI con todas estas entidades que ven en el recuadro de la izquierda. Es básicamente la coordinación de un observatorio epidemiológico que permita hacer control de cómo evolucionan las pandemias a través de datos que se obtienen también de compañías de telecomunicaciones y otros. Siguiente slide. Y para finalizar, nuestras pruebas de concepto. Aquí cada uno de los socios de SIDAI ha puesto sobre esta iniciativa algunas de las pruebas de concepto, mencionarlas muy rápidamente. Tenemos desde Deep Learning para el soporte de diagnóstico de cáncer de pulmón, aplicación de Deep Learning, inteligencia artificial para análisis de documentos relacionados con la COVID-19, con el COVID, predicción de algoritmos para accidentes, para prevenir accidentes, por ejemplo, hacer recomendaciones a agentes del tráfico para que en una esquina hagan más o menos controles dependiendo de la época o de datos, de datos externos que permitan hacer un mayor control y prevención de accidentes. También pruebas de concepto de revalorizar objetos dentro de un flujo de basura a través de imagen por computador. También estamos en otra prueba de concepto que es de aplicación de encriptación homomórfica para aplicaciones de Machine Learning y ya para finalizar un traductor en tiempo real de catalán hacia texto y aplicación de inteligencia artificial para analizar los documentos que se generan, sobre todo en licitaciones. Actualmente la administración pública ha sacado bastantes ayudas y tiene un problema serio al momento de procesar toda la información, todos los formularios que están recibiendo. Entonces serían también aplicar inteligencia artificial para hacer un primer filtraje de toda esta documentación. Y para finalizar, siguiente slide, comentarles que sobre todo SIDAI es una iniciativa país que busca impulsar la adopción de la inteligencia artificial y la tecnología de los datos para hacer de la región más competitiva. Somos una iniciativa que estamos abiertas a nuevas colaboraciones. Tenemos la estructura de miembros y la comunidad. Si alguna entidad estaría interesado en participar en alguna de las actividades que estamos llevando a cabo, por favor que se pongan en contacto con nosotros. El objetivo es aumentar la capacidad tecnológica de inteligencia artificial y de datos en Cataluña. Muchas gracias.
Thank you, Marco. Very interesting presentation, and we are certainly interested to contact you. I hope the audience too. Our next speaker is Elias Aziri, co-founder of MathScan. In 2017, Elias co-founded in close collaboration with prominent math education researchers in USA a startup called MathScan that provides artificially intelligent solutions to support math education in Morocco with a vision to scale up in Arabic and French-speaking markets. Elias is an expert of science, technology, innovation, and entrepreneurship management and evaluation. He has a Master's of Sciences on Innovation Management and Entrepreneurship from Manchester Business School, the University of Manchester, a Master in Management, and an Engineer Diploma in Agronomy. Elias is currently in charge of the implementation of Tech Tamkeen Strategy and Tech Transfer 2020 programs for the promotion of innovation, technology transfer, and university spin-off. He conducted and contributed to several studies and organized, contributed, and chaired many national and international workshops and conferences addressing research, innovation, business incubation, and entrepreneurship issues. Please, Elias, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me to this summit. Please, can I have access to my presentation? Okay. Well, my presentation is an example of walking the talk on innovation and digitalization in the Mediterranean perspective of startup. A startup that is coming from the southern bank of the Mediterranean Sea. Next, please. Yeah. Let me start by this slide about national system of innovation. Probably this is the most famous approach we used globally when we try to innovation. Of course, when we are talking about national system of innovation, the assumption is that all the components are there and they interact between each other. But in developing country situation, the system is in the building because not all the components of such system exists already. They don't have necessarily all of them the capacity to function as they are supposed to. And last but not least, not all the components interact between each other. Having said that, regardless the degree of development of national innovation system, the efficiency of national systems of innovations depends on the combination of four capacities. The first capacity is the capacity to create knowledge. The second is the capacity to diffuse, not only creating within our borders, because for the case of Morocco or Spain or Italy, 99% knowledge or technological knowledge, let's say, is beyond ours, and we cannot ignore it. We cannot rely only on knowledge created within our borders, and this situation is so true for developing countries like mine. So, create knowledge, diffuse knowledge, the capacity to absorb knowledge and to use it for commercial purposes. And here as well there is a problem because companies, not all the companies or the great deal companies or SMEs in the border of the Mediterranean Sea, they don't have capacity to recognize and absorb useful knowledge. Of course, if they don't have the capacity, they cannot to generate commercial value. Next, please. So, when we are talking about knowledge, we consider it as the most important resource in knowledge economy, and by consequence, learning is the most important process. But when into knowledge, when we are dealing with innovation, we have to distinguish between two types of knowledge. Explicit knowledge, easily codified in letters, words, videos, YouTube, you name it, publication. And tacit knowledge, implicit knowledge, non-codified. Longville, which is one of the most famous researchers on innovation, introduced a distinction between four categories of knowledge critical to innovation. The know what refers to access to information, usually explicit. Now with internet, MOOCs, etc., it's easy to access this knowledge. The know why refers to understanding law principles, usually through R&D or training. But the most critical knowledge for very hard to access is the know-how, which refers to experience-based knowledge, tacit, learned through the whim, using, and interacting with people who have this knowledge in their head. And the know-who, it refers to the social capital of enterprise and degree of its integration in knowledge-based network, whether nationally or internationally. If I am an SME or startup in Morocco and I don't know, I want to export something to Chile, am I embedded in the right networks that will make it easy for me? Or I want to do some AI something, am I embedded in the right network will make it access to requirement for me? So let's illustrate how this happened for our startup MathScan. Go ahead, please. So MathScan, to summarize what we are, well, we'll start with this slide. Let's assume in math on fractions, Sarah and Adam answered different exercises correctly, but got this exact same mark, 8 out of 20. 8 out of 20 doesn't tell us anything about whether they have the same gaps of skills. Where are these gaps? For example, for fractions, we need to know decimal numbers, divisions, addition, subtraction, multiplication. And how can a professor remedy the gaps without knowing where are these gaps in the first place for 30 students? It's quite hard. Next slide. So what we have done in MathScan is that we built this huge knowledge map. So far we have like more than 2,300 skills. And we built an intelligent tutoring system based on model tracing paradigms. So if someone, for example, dealing with equations and he is like in middle school, and we want to test him whether he masters equation or not, we send equation. If it doesn't answer, the algorithm will be looking in the prerequisite skills and find out where are the gaps, and then the tutoring system will generate automatically personalized remediation program for him. Next slide. Next slide, please. So to illustrate that, for example, when you look to the Moroccan program about linear equation, you will find that there are 4 broad competencies, but you don't know exactly what these competencies covering. Recognize the no and then X, know some simple problem solving techniques, find the solution, check the solution found, model with mathematics. What we have done is that we looked at other programs and we went to really granular level to find out what exactly these skills are required to master 90% what is needed, let's say, in linear equation. For example, competency number 4, model with mathematics in green, we will find more detailed stuff when you are dealing with MathScan. Next slide. And this will allow us to provide really very useful data about who is mastering what, which kind of skills, where are the gaps, etc., etc. Next slide. This is just an example of the reports that we have. Okay, so we are useful to students, but we empower education stakeholders with useful data so they can steer the education process. Next slide. Next slide. Yeah. Here comes the know-how, the know-who, etc. and the linkage with what I said earlier. Actually, MathScan couldn't be without collaboration with Worcester Polytechnic Institute. Worcester Polytechnic Institute, they are really very worldwide famous team of researchers dealing with intelligent tutoring systems in mathematics. They spent more than $20 million in research, so it's impossible to spend such money in Morocco. And we started the collaboration, and it was a situation because they don't care about Arabic or French speaking market or whatever. US is more than enough for them. And through this collaboration, we had access to the know-how because they have published more than 200 publications on their stuff. And the know-how, the tacit knowledge on how to build an intelligent system adapted to our situation, and the know-how, of course, introduction to new people that could help build that. Next slide. So this is my slide. For every step, there are 3 C's, very important: customers, people, cash. And to bring innovation to market, you need all these. And whether we are startup from Morocco or Lebanon or Spain, I think we can collaborate, and there are these for innovation and digitalization in all these species. For example, in our case, we have already started the process to expand to the French market, because we would like to do some fundraising, because funds are more available there than in our market. And we believe and have an edge about all the existing solutions, and we have our place there. This is one thing. The second thing, because there are many incentives for R&D in EU countries that do not exist in our country. Capabilities, we can collaborate in marketing, growth hacking, you name it, and cash fundraising that I said earlier. This just, MATSCAN was the fruit national collaboration. I didn't mention that we have a team of developers in India that we work with. So with digital, it becomes easy to collaborate with US and India to provide some solution for Arabic and the French-speaking countries. And this could be multiplied, scaled up across the Mediterranean, because innovation can cross borders easily with digitalization. And there are some specific, like let's say, some innovation companies caring only about Spanish-speaking markets. Why not to find a way to move it to Arabic-speaking or English or German or whatever speaking markets? So this is just one particular example of MATSCAN and how we evolved and how we can promote this international collaboration or Mediterranean collaboration on innovation and digitalization. Thank you.
Thank you, Elias. Also very interesting for education, and I hope you'll be successful in scaling it up to other markets. Our next speaker is Hilary Mcmahon. Hilary is the Managing Director of Hazel, an advisory service investors looking to have positive impact in the world. She is a member of the board at CLASP and Columbia University Advisory Council on Sustainable Finance. Hilary puts sustainability strategies into action every day. Sustainability and the role of the private sector is the foundation of Hilary's professional life. As the former director of intelligence at Richard Branson's Carbon War Room, and previously as an expert and as thought leader of the World Resources Institute, the UN, WBCSD, and the European Commission. Hilary has a particular interest in the role of technology and new business models in solving social and environmental challenges. As such, she has been instrumental in many important projects, example, as a judge for the MIT Collab, Echoing Green Fellowship, and more. Communicating on energy and sustainability comes naturally to Hilary and provides a global perspective as a result of her experience working all around the world and with a multitude of change makers. Well, Hilary is going to share a video with us, so please proceed with the video.
Hi, sorry about that. So I just wanted to say thank you for the invitation, and also just for technical reasons, I actually pre-recorded the presentation, so we'll play it as a video if you're good with that, Duan. Hi, my name is Hilary Mcmahon. I am the CEO of Hazel Insight. We work with investors and startups to grow markets in clean technologies. But I am here today to talk to you a little bit about what is happening at a more macro level. And I just wanted to give you a feel for what we're seeing in terms of what support there is in Brussels, more broadly in Europe and around Europe, to support innovation and support partnerships in the European Union and outside of the European Union. So I wanted to talk to you a little bit about the European Green Deal. I'm sure there's been a lot of headlines that you have seen, and a lot of news and a lot of updates and also a lot of debate. But really what I wanted to give you as a kind of the top headline was that when people see the EU Green Deal, they often think, well, it's a plan for climate change, it's a plan to address global warming. But in fact, what the European Union really sees, I think, and this applies both to people in Brussels as well as the member states, is an opportunity to actually create a socio-economic agenda for modernization. And that is obviously a modernization for Europe and their partners. In terms of this question of how green is the European recovery package and the European support for member states, well, in all honesty, about 30% of the 1.8 trillion that's expected to be spent between 2021 and 2027, only 30% of that is actually flagged for specific climate projects. Now, that's not to say that the monies that are going to be spent are not still going to be green, because actually there are a lot of other legislative initiatives which will move that money into projects that have a sustainability component. The climate law, for example, applies to nearly all expenditure, and that's private investment at home and abroad. And so that means that you have to prove that basically what you're doing through the climate law and also through your sustainable finance taxonomy that's been put out is that your investment does no harm. In addition to this, there's a very significant revision of state aid rules to support less carbon-intensive industries. And this is something that applies specifically to large infrastructure projects, large energy projects, even gas and natural gas and hydrogen projects. So it's quite an important movement in terms of, I would say, the European Union not intervening as much as they would before in a lot of the energy expenditure. And the other piece that's quite important just to note is that by 2030, all European member states are supposed to be spending about 32% of their renewable consumption on renewable energy. Now, most of the countries that we have talked to today will not meet those targets. And that is a real challenge. So there's going to be a lot of movement in the next few years to really get renewable consumption out there. And that includes fuels, it includes a lot of offshore wind projects. And those are the kind of partnerships that we will see in the Mediterranean, where using, for example, bunkering infrastructure, using existing gas pipeline infrastructure for hydrogen, all of that kind of those projects will really move towards making that particular 32% renewable energy consumption goal very real. So kind of in a broader sense, and maybe just to summarize that kind of socioeconomic agenda piece, a lot of how they imagine they will be doing that is actually through climate diplomacy. So this means that there's a specific call on any development aid, any of the work that they're doing abroad with other countries through their trade negotiations or trade deals. The goal is actually to create climate champions at home and abroad. So they have a very specific part of their foreign policy, their trade policy, and their financial services policy, which is focused on climate diplomacy. I want to just give you a quick example from the automotive sector. The reason I want to give this one is because it has moved so fast, and it is extremely important in terms of pieces of legislation that add up to something that's quite significant for an industry. Now, obviously, there's legislative rewrites, which have a lot of implications for customers, as well as manufacturers, such as the Euro 7 rules, which will reduce the amount of emissions that cars are allowed to emit, renewable energy law, as I mentioned before, and a smart mobility strategy, which will look at electrifying Europe. but there are also very important industrial strategies whereby they are looking again to create those champions, and those champions are across borders. For example, the hydrogen valleys that they're looking to create for both all types of transport, including maritime, which we'll talk about next. And those valleys are seen as being something that will be shared across seas, across borders, and in particular with existing trading partners. The other opportunity, I suppose, that we need to kind of keep an eye on is the carbon tax adjustment, which will have significant effect on all trading partners in the European Union. And for example, a lot of automotive parts, etc., will be affected by that carbon tax adjustment, which adjusts for the carbon intensity of that product. So there are a lot of negotiations going on in terms of how, therefore, you bolster the supply chain for things like automotive batteries within the European Union. And the way that they've decided to do that is through the Battery Alliance and creating a new supply chain to compete with international supply chains. What they have not done is included automotive in the EU ETS system, which is a significant decision, but it was seen as one that was too hard really to monitor and manage at an international level. However, for maritime, they will be included in the European emissions trading system. That is a massive change in policy for the European Union. It's also a massive change policy for the IMO, who have taken on this as a very significant both opportunity and challenge for the industry. So again, along with trying to get them into the EU emissions trading system, the European Union is actually providing a lot of support for the maritime industry to do that. Again, it's through the programs like Horizon 2022, which will be coming along through a lot of support that has never really existed before for the shipping industry, for ports, and for shipping technologies, which my colleague will talk about next. Again, the Hydrogen Alliance being seen as one of the ways of really reducing the emissions in terms of the fuel that's consumed. But then, even probably more important, I would say, real opportunities for people who are producing, for example, low sulfur and very low sulfuring fuels. And the European Union is working very strongly with brokers for those types of fuels and companies who have the ability to switch their manufacturing to produce those types of fuels. So again, these are all just examples of how this socioeconomic agenda is actually affecting industry, and also the way in which it's able to really provide some clarity over what we can see happening in the future, in the next 10 years and in the next 20 years. So thank you all for listening to that, and thank you also to the team, ASME, for helping me to facilitate with my technical challenges. So I just wanted to refer back to the two, the automotive and maritime pieces there, which I talked about. After having obviously looked at the recovery plan, which ASME put out recently, I think these ideas around, for example, Mediterranean automotive hubs could really be broadened out and could be very exciting in terms of having a deeper conversation around, for example, the maritime hub, the alternative low sulfur and very low sulfur fuel hubs, and battery hubs, etc. So I think there's some real opportunities for these championships to be extended to organizations throughout the Mediterranean, and certainly happy to work with you in doing that. So happy to take any questions, and thank you again for your time and for listening.
Thank you. Hello. Oh, excuse me. I'm having problem with my computer. Thank you. Our next speaker is, just a minute. Our next speaker is Nebras Jamal. No, sorry, Hedwig van Velde Rensema. Hedwig van Velde Rensima is a Dutch maritime professional living in Barcelona, Spain. She has more than 12 years of technical and commercial experience in maritime sector at Dutch maritime shipbuilding companies. She uses her knowledge and experience to contribute to more sustainable shipping sector. She now introduces innovations that help owners to reduce emissions in a profitable way. She has a focus on energy efficiency technology and is amongst others representing MPS fluidic air lubrication technology to reduce emissions for merchant ships. Hedwig, please proceed. The floor is yours. Uh, yeah. All right, until the microphone is fixed, we'll move into Nibras Jamal, co-founder of Kuhn. The co-founder and CEO of Kuhn or Kaun, is it? The company behind. He is Nibras is Flushi. He is passionate about intersections of AI and the fields of public life, particularly when it comes to the developing world. He has ample experience in the startup world as he was the first engineer at Legalist. Y Combinator startup working on AI-powered legal analytics. Moreover, he has acquired research experience under the supervision of the head of the Center of Middle Eastern Studies at Harvard University. Furthermore, he was an envoy to the United Nations on behalf of the Youth Alliance for Leadership and Development in Africa, YALDA. He attended Harvard University where he studied social studies, economics, history and philosophy and computer science, and where he was the co-president of the Woodbridge International Society and the vice president of the Society of Arab Students, SAS. Nibras, please, the floor is yours. You are welcome. Nibras.
Thank you very much for the kind introduction. So I want to apologize to everybody because I was unable to submit a presentation in time. But I'm here to talk about a very recent development that we've done in Tunisia, which was the launch of our Flusi Lab. So just by the way of introduction, my name is Nibras Jamal. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Kaun. Next slide, please. Yeah, so we've known the reason why Kaun was founded is that we realized that access to essential resources is 10 times harder for some people. In Tunisia, for example, we have about 47 bank branches per 100,000 people, and about 68% of adults own debit cards. In another city called Sidi Bouzid, which for those of you who know is the city where the Tunisian revolution started back in 2011, We only have about 4.3 bank branches per 100,000 people, and only 23% of the adult population owns a debit card. Next. We realized that this is an access problem, and this access problem is actually really hard for traditional banks to break through, and that's why on an international level we have this movement of neobanks, especially in Europe and some Latin American countries, as well as mobile payment apps in sub-Saharan Africa and in China. However, around the Mediterranean and particularly the North African region, both of these movements have not caught up. So what we see is a very interesting statistic, which is that about 36% of people in Tunisia, for example, have bank accounts, and 70% of people have smartphones, which means that we have more people with smartphones and more people with internet connection than people with bank accounts, which is a very odd thing that we try to solve. Next. So to solve that, we created Flusi, which is a financial inclusion pipeline. The Flusi is an app. This app allows people to open a free bank account with a fully digitized KYC process, which is the first of its kind to be approved by the Central Bank of Tunisia. It allows peer-to-peer and merchant payments instantly, so there is no need really for a card because you can pay directly with your phone. And it goes into credits through our relationships with banks and with MFIs, microfinance institutions, to be able to use all the data that we have on Flusi to be able to give credit scores to people and give them credit on the app. Next. The core component of Flusi is Kaun ID. Kaun ID is our trusted digital identity gateway. It works through scanning Tunisian national IDs, having a liveliness detection check. So basically, we just run facial recognition from live video images from people's smartphones and compare them against the ID and document, the ID document that they've submitted. And in the background, we run automatic integrations for anti-money laundering and check against international and national blacklists. Next. On the front end, the user sees a much nicer experience. So basically, they just enter their phone number, they receive an SMS, put the SMS back in the app in order to verify their identity. They take a picture of their national ID, and then they shoot a video where we do the liveliness check. They book an appointment to have a video call with the bank. This is done to be able to respect the anti-money laundering regulation currently in Tunisia. You can choose, you sign the document, you give us a specimen of your signature, so you basically sign with your finger on the screen, and then you fill out a form. Next. This is available on the Flusi app, which is available on the App Store and the App Store and the Play Store. It's also available as an SDK, so that basically banks and other financial institutions can run this onboarding process on their own apps, and thus they can have a direct means to access clients without necessarily asking them to be physically present at their branches, which is a first in Tunisia and really in the Maghreb region in general. Next. Our goal is for this identity gateway to be the basis of access to a plethora of services. So on one end, we give people access to electronic signatures that are government-backed. People can use these electronic signatures in order to access to a number of e-government services, like declaring taxes online, which became a huge thing, especially in 2020, given that it's the COVID year. It allows them to have instant peer-to-peer transfers because both parties of these transfers are already identified. It allows us to offer people the power to pay merchants electronically, as well as top up their phone lines and pay for their utilities online. Next. So our competitive advantage is really the ability to create these accounts electronically in Tunisia. We've worked with a number of government institutions like the Central Bank of Tunisia and the National Agency for Electronic Certification over the past 3 years to be able to verify and create a process that's able to respect the current Tunisian regulation and allow for these remote services to happen. And this happened just in time with the COVID crisis for them to be very popular. The app is available in the Tunisian Arabic dialect, in Standard Arabic, in French, and in English. And basically, the whole money side of things, so basically payments, merchant payments, and online payments, happen through a decentralized interbank platform, which is basically our own interpretation of a blockchain protocol. So the solution is highly scalable and is something that we can see being replicated in multiple countries across the Mediterranean. Next. Our business model when it comes to banks and partner institutions is that we basically take a per active user, we take a fee per active user per year, and we also take a transaction fee from the transactions that the user puts on the platform. But this contributes to this actually is a lot lower than the current fees that users of banking services currently pay. Which allows us to democratize access to finance and democratize access to financial services in order to contribute to true financial inclusion. Next. The reason why we found this problem to be very interesting is that Tunisia, in the end, is just a prototype of a problem that is very common in middle-income countries in general. So in MENA, as an example, we have about 74% projected smartphone connections by 2025. 93.1% adults have national IDs, so people can be identified and they have the device to be identified with, yet only 34.6% of them have access to bank accounts. Our goal is to take that and make it a lot closer to the OECD average, which is more than double. Next. So the market here is very huge, of course. The New York customer market is projected to be about around $12 billion globally by 2022. In MENA alone, it's about $2 billion. And when it comes to the mobile payments markets, it's more than 1 trillion globally in 2019. The number is actually 1.4 trillion. And the current MENA CAGR is about 17.8%. Next. We believe that we've built the right team for this. So I am the co-founder of the company. Our other co-founder and CDO is Anis Khalel, who worked at Microsoft and SeedStars World Africa. We currently have one main banking partner, which is a Tijari Bank, and we've started integration with 2 other partner banks. And we launched a private beta with 2 microfinance institutions in order to give them access to people access to fully digitized microcredits. We've been working with EBRD and USAID to make this program happen. We are recognized by the Tunisian government as a startup within the Startup Act, and we're the first Tunisian startups to ever graduate from the Google for Startups Accelerator 2020. Next. So our expansion, as I said, it actually is around the southern Mediterranean border. Basically, the next countries that we're planning to integrate in are Morocco, Jordan, Algeria, and Egypt. The sectors are banking, microfinance, insurance, and e-gov services. And we've already taken a major step here by being accepted into the regulatory sandbox of the Jordanian central banks to be able to pilot our technology and process there. Next. So yeah, thank you. The biggest milestone that's actually not currently on the presentation because it's such a novel development is that the app was released last week. As the app was released, we've received more than 10,000 downloads in about 48 hours, which proves how much people in the region are actually excited to have their lives changed by opportunities and by apps like ours. We are currently the first app in the finance category on the App Store. We are the first app on the finance category in the Play Store, and we're the third app overall in the App Store for Tunisia. We're hoping that this momentum would continue, and we're hoping that we're going to be able to generate this momentum in the countries where we believe that we have a good opportunity to expand. If you're interested in talking more to me about us, you can just check out our website or email me at nebras@account.com. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you very much, Nebras. Very interesting and very promising. I want to call again on Hadweg. Hadweg, is your microphone okay now?
Yes. Yes, hello. Good afternoon. I hope everybody can hear me now. I'm going to talk today about how innovations can help the maritime sector more sustainable. And there is loads of room for improvement there to make it more sustainable. And there are many technical innovations that out there that could help reduce emissions. Technologies that can also be profitable for the shipping sector. So basically, can you put on my slide, please? Thank you. I'm basically going to present today on the subject of decarbonization in the maritime sector. Oh, you can switch that on. Thank you. Next, please. Yeah, thank you. I want to present on the subject of decarbonization in the maritime sector, which is a big topic today. First, I will focus on some numbers and measures to decarbonize the sector, and thereafter I will introduce 3 innovative technologies to make it more tangible, and there are technologies available in the market which are basically helping to decarbonize the shipping sector during sailing, for example, marine performance systems and Bound for Blue, and also in a port environment like Scone. Next, please. So in this slide, you can see some emission numbers in shipping. Shipping emissions, if we continue under a business as usual scenario, the emissions will rise between 50% and 250% by 2050, according to the European Commission, which is definitely undermining the objectives of the Paris Agreement. So basically, there's really time to act. If we're talking about the Mediterranean area, for example, there was a study in 2017 by Transport and Environment that learned us that the top 3 most polluted cruise ports are actually in the Mediterranean. And the first one of those is Barcelona, where I'm now. So that we need to act now. Next, please. So what can we do to reduce those emissions? Next slide, please. On a global level, the International Maritime Organization, Hilary already mentioned, is part of the United Nations, imposes objectives to the shipping sector to reduce global greenhouse gas emissions by 50% in 2050, which is quite a challenge for the market. So market-based measures is another way to reduce those emissions, applying the polluter pays principle. So that ship owners themselves can decide the way to respond and minimize the cost of their emissions. Like, for example, speed reduction or investing in more energy efficient technologies or alternative fuels. And there's also the emission trading system, what Hilary mentioned briefly, for shipping, that is to be launched in the European Union in January 2022. As we can see on the slide as well, American Bureau of Shipping summarized the way to decarbonize the shipping sector could be based on 3 elements: efficiency technologies, operational optimization, and alternative fuels. And the first two can also be profitable, according to IMO. Next, please. So I would like to continue on this ABS framework using those three elements of operational efficiency, vessel energy efficiency technologies, and low and zero carbon and carbon neutral fuels. And I would like to focus in this presentation on efficiency technologies, which mainly air lubrication, wind energy for ships, and cold ironing in ports. So that's basically plugging in your ship in an electricity network in port, and make them very concrete by presenting you three different innovative startups that working on this specific subjects. Next, please. Next slide, please. So hereby I would like to introduce three. Can you put on the next slide, please? Thank you. So hereby I'm introducing three different commercially available technologies that can help reduce shipping emissions in the short term. So not tomorrow, today. So MPS air lubrication and Bound for Blue foldable wind sails, which are basically energy efficiency technologies that are recognized by and part of the Solar Impulse Foundation, implicating that their technology both reduces emissions and is profitable. And SCONE as a zero emission generator, helping to reduce emissions in port. Next, please. So I would like to start with air lubrication. That's basically creating an air layer under the ship to reduce the friction, and consequently you reduce the propulsion power, the fuel consumption, and thus emissions. And this, if you can control the air layer and keep it stable, you could reach up to 20% savings. Next, please. And that's basically what the startup Marine Performance System did. It's a Danish startup that was founded in 2018. And they've combined fluidic air lubrication technology to inject the air bubbles through oscillators under the ship, which you see on the right-hand side. The air lubrication strips are welded to the bottom of the ship, and by introducing 80 million bubbles per second, the system creates a stable and controlled air layer under the ship. And this air layer efficiently reduces friction, resulting in net 8 to 12% in reduction in fuel consumption. Next, please. And then the next startup that I would like to introduce, a bit closer by in the Mediterranean, Bound for Blue. This is a group of Spanish aeronautical engineers, and they developed a complementary propulsion system, basically with sails, and this reducing the main engine power and resulting also in fuel savings and emission reduction. Bound for Blue rigid wing sails can be installed on merchant vessels, just like the MPS technology, air lubrication technology. Average savings are up to 30%, and payback time is less than 5 years, depending a bit on your vessel and operational profile. Next slide, please. So Bound for Blue wing sails consist of a telescopic and retractable mast on which a rib structure is mounted that you can see on the photographs that hold the outer skin of the sail. And the system works on an autonomous control system to not have the crew have an additional task on board to run the sail system. So it works autonomously, and that can make sure that it can rotate, the mast rotate, and the sails fold without any additional need for crew or training. Next, please. So that's the third and final startup that I would like to introduce. This is a Dutch startup founded in 2017. And they operate with the mission to accelerate the energy transition by creating a network of swappable batteries that let users share and rent and lease them. And you could see their main application in shipping and ports as a zero emission generator on batteries, basically. They also started an online platform of battery sharing to connect battery owners and users. It's basically storage. Next, please. So how can scone really help you reducing ships pollution? Well, in ports, just to explain a bit of the background, ships use their auxiliary engines to generate electrical power for all onboard equipment, like, for example, communications, ventilation, unloading and loading activities, etc. And this results in a really unnecessary increase in greenhouse gas emissions in port. And ports are also close to cities often. So this will lead to dangerous health and environmental effects. And this can be prevented by installing shoreside electricity networks for ships to supply their power at berth. And one of the very interesting applications of those scone battery containers is to deliver peak loads for ships that are plugged in the shoreside electricity network of ports. And this can significantly reduce their investment in shoreside electricity networks by not designing them at their peak loads. So you can design them at 75% or something, and the battery container will consume the peak loads. Moreover, the energy density of energy storage solutions, so batteries, but also other energy storage solutions, is improving very rapid. For example, green hydrogen fuel cells, and you name it. So maybe in the near future, you don't even need to install fixed shore power connections, but instead you could rely on a flexible network of energy storage solutions. Next, please. I hope I could have inspired you a bit today to think also in sustainable solutions. If you're talking about innovation, well, the Earth's resources are shrinking rapidly, and the emission numbers are rising every day. And the only way to do something to stop that is, I think, to think creative. And not only new innovations will bring us there, but also just changing habits in the field of using energy, transport, food, clothing could already contribute. And today my focus has really been on the shipping sector, because that's where I'm from. But I'm sure that there are a million opportunities to contribute to make the world a better place for the next generation. Thank you very much.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Okay. Sorry about the microphone. I want to thank Hedwig for very interesting and promising presentation. And I would like to open the floor for questions. I will start with a question to Roger Esprio. How can entities or companies in the region collaborate with Eureka, Roger?
Okay, that's a good question. Es decir, nosotros como centro tecnológico podemos colaborar con las empresas de distintas formas. Tenemos servicios más tecnológicos de soporte de la implementación de determinadas tecnologías y también tenemos servicios más de soporte al proceso de transferencia. Para entrar más en detalle lo que serían los servicios que ofrecemos desde consultoría estratégica, nosotros ofrecemos a las empresas un acompañamiento integral en lo que sería la definición de una estrategia tecnológica a las empresas. Damos soporte en la definición de un plan estratégico, damos soporte en la conceptualización de proyectos, ofrecemos asesoramiento a la priorización de estos proyectos para reducir riesgo y realmente asegurar el impacto dentro de la misma organización. Lo más importante es que como centro tecnológico pues tenemos a nuestra disposición más de 20 unidades tecnológicas de distintos ámbitos tecnológicos, industrial, digital, sostenibilidad y biotecnología, y lo que ofrecemos también es un acompañamiento en la implementación de estas tecnologías, ¿no? Entonces, al cubrir todo el ciclo tecnológico, nos aseguramos realmente pues que la empresa tenga una estrategia que la pueda implementar y nos aseguramos de que realmente pueda desarrollar tecnologías con éxito. Muchas gracias.
Thank you. May I pose a similar question to Marco? How can entities in the region that are taking steps in data technology and/or artificial intelligence collaborate with SEDAI, Marco?
Okay, sorry about that. So thank you for your question. I was speaking how the answer. So in my presentation, I talk about how is our structure. We have our core partner, we have members, and then the community. We are working to identify who are the most innovative SMEs in the field of artificial intelligence and data technology who can join us as a member in SEDAI. And we also are working to identify some other enablers that could act as ambassadors of our initiative and all the tasks that we are carrying out. So if you are an entity in the region and you are doing some step in this kind of technology, please contact us. We have several kind of different activities that we can collaborate. So we should know each other in order to understand in which kind of initiative or activities you can work with us. So.
At what level of development are the SEDAI projects that you are carrying out? You mentioned 2 levels. You mentioned some projects that are you're scheduled for 2021 and others still at the concept level.
Yeah, we have several different kind of projects. One are the high impact project that we are working in three sector in these 2 years, and another one that as a proof of concept. Different between the both of them is the number of resources that we have to put and to invest in this project. But I think your question could be more related to which kind of technology readiness level we are working on. So all our projects, the high impact project and the proof of concept, are in TRLs very high. We are working to speed up the adoption of this technology. So we are working in projects that are very close to the market.
Okay. I find the project you mentioned regarding COVID-19 very interesting, and maybe my suggestion is to be top priority in these days. I move on to Elias Aziri. We saw now 2 innovative solutions, one in education and the other by Nebras in the area of financial services. Elias, are you able to see how you can benefit from your collaboration with Eureka or actually with SEDAI, having a bulk or a basis in artificial intelligence for your solution?
Yeah, undoubtedly, because I mean, it is to large extent similar between countries. You might have like 20% of difference in between programs, but percent would be the same. And undoubtedly, I mean, we've built a solution that could be easily adapted to other countries. So I will be more than happy to explore potential for collaboration with SEDAI, for example. with SIDAI, I think I saw that they are interested as well in education. Yes, undoubtedly. I mean, it's just an adaptation to the process, to the program of the other country. This is why we think, well, we start with France because it will require us less because we have already French items and questions and hints, etc. But undoubtedly, we can adapt it to any country.
I have another question on Tech Tamkeen strategy and Tech Transfer 2020 programs. Can you elaborate a little bit about these, please?
Yeah, it's a program that is Tech Tamkeen. It has as an objective to train people working in research universities or research institutions in general to become transfer managers. And we are launching, I mean, probably next week or the week after, a program that would fund technology transfer from universities to the socioeconomic sectors. I mean, above the technological level 3 and above, to support the commercial and technological maturation of this technology so they can fit the market needs until they reach like commercial readiness 6 and technological readiness level 7, let's say.
I want to add one more question. Being at education level, what do you think universities should do nowadays, or academicians, to be able to bridge the gap between skills required for digital transformation and skills acquired now at universities? There is...
Yeah. I will, because, well, there is a lot of literature in terms of technology transfer, but it's more addressing issues in countries where the system is old. There is a system of innovation. In countries like ours, it's system in the building. And as I mentioned earlier, there is a huge gap between the two because, frankly, as well, enough demand for innovation and our SMEs. So we need education in both sides. There is enough skills and enough in institution and research institution in developing like their third mission, which is socio-economic development mission, and there isn't enough as well capacity. So we need capacity, to build capacity within, because many are at the stage of they don't know what they don't know. So if they don't know what they don't know, they will not ask to know what is crystallography. You are not going to Google it to start with. So the challenges in our country are deeper. So there is a lot of education, and there is as well, we need, it's not just, we need to analyze which sector where people are ready to play the game and to come up with some successful stories that could be taken as an example for other sectors. And so it requires to do it in such a way, in optimize. You don't have enough resources, obviously, for that. In a nutshell, because otherwise I can expand on that for an hour or two.
So we need really maybe to make more investment in talking to universities and academicians and raising awareness, I presume. Well, regarding maritime industry and sustainability finance, I would like to ask Hilary, how could the sustainability benefit of artificial intelligence? Have you ever explored that aspect?
Yeah, so some of the groups that we're working with include, I mentioned the automotive industry, whereby we're actually also part of the Euro 7 group advising on the new rules that should work to reduce emissions from cars just most generally. So there are some very interesting opportunities around these new powertrain systems that are coming out, which are lighter, cheaper, and aimed at a market that is more focused on being automatic, essentially, or automated. Also, how cars, for example, actually work simultaneously in an urban environment is very important for air pollution issues. So there's a concept of, for example, geofencing, where the cars themselves will be making these decisions as to when they should lower their emissions because they're in an urban environment. And all of this would be customer free. The customer would not be engaged in any way in essentially making those decisions, but they would all be automated. So some of those technologies are being explored by virtue of a solution essentially to make the Euro 7 rules stronger, because if you can actually use artificial intelligence to dictate how cars perform, for example, in urban environments where air pollution is probably the biggest problem, then you have the ability to take more of a ambitious stance in terms of what those emissions regulations should be.
Hadwick, may we pose a similar question to you regarding the maritime industry and fuel savings? Okay. We move to Nibras Jamal. We've seen one interesting, really. So Nibras is disconnected too, and Hadwick is disconnected. So I would like to pose a question to Roger, Marco, and Elias Aziri. How this forum was supposed to bring in to network entities, innovators, investors, and standing issues, to bring them into one platform where they can coordinate, they can collaborate, and build a stronger bridge among Mediterranean countries, Mediterranean innovators, Mediterranean entities. So how do you suggest that what kind of recommendation you have for this forum to present as a result of this discussion? So, because we have now organizations and entities for acceleration, we have open challenges that are still require innovative solution, and also people or innovators here. So how do you propose such a platform can be established where we can all live in a virtual world through this virtual network, kind of a virtual network, please? We're going to start with Roger.
Okay, thank you for the question. Desde mi punto de vista, es decir, no hay un foro o una plataforma concreta, sino que los sistemas de innovación son extremadamente complejos, y lo que es importante es que cada organización y cada entidad establezca su propia hoja de ruta sobre cómo impulsar su proceso de innovación, y evidentemente en el marco de esta estrategia tiene que ir a buscar socios o partners que le den soporte, y en este sentido tiene que definir pues si realmente se apoya con centros tecnológicos para impulsar su proceso de innovación, otras empresas, universidades, etcétera. Y lo que es muy importante es ser parte o ser miembro de los principales hubs de innovación, tanto regionales como europeos, ¿no? Para ver realmente cómo está el estado del arte, qué tecnologías realmente son tendencia en este momento, y que les den soporte pues a la implementación de estas tecnologías en su organización o su empresa.
Marco? Thank you, Roger.
Thank you so much.
Marco, you have a comment?
Yeah, in our case, so we act as a digital innovation hub here in Catalonia regarding this kind of technologies, data tech and artificial intelligence. So in our case, we are working in build a strong ecosystem to identify all SMEs and another kind of entity who can provide services to our network. So in our case, we are looking forward to identify another kind of digital innovation hub in the same kind of technology in order to increase our impact to whole Europe. But we think now we are working more in our region and with the vision to go to Europe when we really establish a strong ecosystem here in Catalonia. So I can explain the same, that we are looking for this kind of entities. Please contact us, and if you are in another country, please put in contact with us with your digital innovation network that you identify in your region in order to increase the impact of all this kind of initiative in this particular technology.
Thank you. Hilary.
Hello.
Hilary, do you have an intervention for us? Hilary. Hello? Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. I can hear you. I was just going to, obviously the examples that were given were extremely practical in terms of how these hubs, how these centers and innovation centers can focus in on a technology and really bring those technologies to bear, and also expand the market. So obviously there's some important activities around market building. One thing I've noticed, certainly helping to create some of the technology hubs at the European level, there's the Battery Alliance, there's the Hydrogen Alliance and others, is that sometimes there's the investor part, or bringing in the investors both from public and private side, is kind of a last thought. And I think that for the commercialization, for example, of low sulfur fuels, for green fuels, etc., which is a priority of the Spanish government now, it has to include the investors from the get-go. And there are a lot of investors out there who are interested in being part of that conversation from the very beginning. So it's just a thought that, we should always kind of consider that from the beginning and really look at the ecosystem of investors, because they might not necessarily be currently investing in those technologies, but how will certainly could be persuaded to.
Elias?
Yeah. So before joining this meeting, I was meeting with our team at Matscam to prepare a new marketing strategy, and it just inspired me to answer your question. When marketing, you go through a funnel, you raise awareness, then you connect qualified lead, and then you commit them to sales. So this it helps to raise awareness and about opportunities. I didn't know CDI exists, for example, in Barcelona. But of course, it's not enough. We need to design tools and programs that would allow to go through the funnel until you connect to a project for international collaboration and innovation and technology, international technology transfer as well. There's strong room for collaboration. Our is an example of international transfer of know-how and knowledge. But frankly, because I worked in European program, it's easier to find tools and programs for R&D collaboration, but it's very, very hard because wrongly the innovation and technology sometimes is very sensitive, but I don't believe in all sectors is that sensitive, and room for win-win, not only for competition when it comes to innovation. And so far there aren't tools, and it's within Europe. I'm not talking representing Europeans. I'm representing probably more the southern bank of Mediterranean. So tools and schemes and programs to promote this collaboration in technology and innovation in countries beyond Europe. And just for fact, there is a fact here when it comes to innovation and excellence in science. Harvard, USA, with 330 million of their population, Harvard, 50% of the staff of Harvard is foreign born. So they could find 50% of their staff within USA. It's a big country. So big ideas move, spread across. God created all humans, have a potential for innovation and creativity and intelligence, and frankly, there is an opportunity that is missed when it comes to the Mediterranean-based collaboration in the field of innovation.
I have one more question. The Mediterranean has now 30%, more than 30% in some countries unemployed. And only a few know that the way for employment in after digital transformation is through innovation and startup instigation. How can this message reach these 30% and help them put them on the road to innovation? What is the role of, in your opinion, of policymakers to raise awareness of the people, to support them? And how could we as well raise the awareness of investors to invest in new technologies? We don't want them to shift from the classical, but the investors, we need to shift the attention of investors to startups, to new opportunities in digital technologies. So, what's your opinion on that, Roger? How can we raise awareness for the youth?
Sí.
Of the youth?
Es decir, hay una parte, ¿no?, de tasa de desempleo que es más estructural, que seguramente deberíamos crear políticas específicas para ello, pero lo que está claro es que la transformación digital y la innovación es la única fórmula real para crear valor, para ser más competitivos y realmente que las empresas puedan competir en un contexto internacional, ¿no? Entonces, si somos capaces de impulsar la innovación de una forma sistémica, tanto a nivel de la organización como generar políticas a nivel de país para impulsar los procesos de innovación, en el fondo tendremos empresas más competitivas que podrán competir en estos mercados internacionales, por tanto generar valor y evidentemente eso acaba derivando en la creación de empleo. Y para mí el rol, en este caso, ¿no?, el rol más de la administración es de dar soporte a la implementación de estas políticas y también ayudar a crear instrumentos para potenciar el proceso de innovación y de creación de nuevas empresas, emprendeduría, etc.
Thank you, Marco.
En nuestro caso, es uno de los pilares principales también de SIDAI, difusión y formación. Hacemos una actividad también de identificar todas las posibilidades formativas, regladas y no regladas, de inteligencia artificial y tecnología de los datos en Cataluña. También trabajamos cerca y estamos buscando miembros que también sean universidades especialistas también en este tipo de tecnología. En las próximas semanas saldrá un anuncio, se hace el evento de difusión de un grado formativo específico en inteligencia artificial en Cataluña. Sería el primer grado universitario que se da en esta temática. Nosotros creemos que este tipo de tecnología va a afectar la vida de las personas en todos sus ámbitos. Y también creemos que necesitamos formar tanto de los beneficios que se pueden obtener con las aplicaciones de esta tecnología, como también identificar qué tipo de formación puede darse para que perfiles que antes trabajaban en otros sectores puedan empezar a especializarse también en herramientas de inteligencia artificial. Entonces, para nosotros es vital estar muy cercano a todas estas posibilidades formativas. Creemos que es la manera correcta para luego aumentar el número de empleos, sobre todo en esta temática. Se habla a veces de que la inteligencia artificial modificará la forma de trabajar y quitará empleo, pero la verdad es que el empleo será transformando a gente que se requiere más especialización y otro tipo de habilidades, y por eso queremos proveer a toda nuestra comunidad un acceso a todos estos tipos de formación que existen en inteligencia artificial y tecnología de los datos.
Thank you. Hilary, your comment on the question, please.
Yeah, I just had again, I suppose more of a macro comment on the socioeconomic aspect of the program that I talked about earlier. And the first thing just to note was that obviously on the public side you have the climate law, which how money gets spent, and then on the private side you have the financial taxonomy, and both of those, I just wanted to point out, include very much as climate, they include social equality as one of the major parameters. So I think that that's very important to remember, that that is really one of the priorities and should remain so.
Thank you. Last and final comment, Elias.
Well, I have to be really frank with you. When it comes to innovation, it could destroy employment and jobs. There is no way about it. There is no doubt. It depends on the sectors. It depends. There is destruction of jobs and creation as well of jobs. But from the perspective of Morocco, I will talk from.
But there is as well the opportunity for job creation.
Yeah, but the net value, it depends on the parameters. I will give just an example for Morocco, from the Moroccan perspective. There is a lesson that
we can stop here. We can stop here. Called upon that our time is over.
Okay.
I would like to thank you all for very interesting presentations, input, and insights. We hope that this program will be for all attendees. And thank you very much. Have a great afternoon.
Thank you.